Hello everyone, this is Bernie Gigas. I would like to update you on where we stand with Plan 2014 with respect to Lake Ontario. Before going to this particular presentation, a couple of points beforehand. One, this presentation is very technical. I apologize for that. It really gets into some numbers, some flow rate comparisons that might be difficult to follow for those of you that may not be completely familiar with F limits and L limits on Plan 2014, but I do summarize it again at the end. And the second point is, none of this is intended to complain about the way that the IJC is managing the rules and the International Lake Ontario St. Lawrence River Board. I believe that the folks that are doing that are indeed following the rules as outlined for them. My complaint is not with how the rules are being applied. My complaint really, as I point out in this presentation, is with the rules in the first place. So, I'm going to be covering Plan 2014 F-limit injury to the Upper St. Lawrence River and Lake Ontario riparians. Specifically, Plan 2014 has a benefit imbalance. As I've discussed before, Plan 2014 uses F-limit to protect the Lower St. Lawrence River, Montreal, during the spring Ottawa River crest. I've pointed out that this is fundamentally a reasonable rule, but there's a limit to how that should be applied and remain fair. As of right now, the F-limit allows an unlimited reduction in Lake Ontario outflow, and in both 2017 and 2019, this Lake Ontario outflow reduction was significantly below pre-project flow rate. And as a result, Montreal and the Lower St. Lawrence River receive a benefit that is significantly above minimum required by Plan 2014, while directly resulting in injury to Lake Ontario and the Upper St. Lawrence River riparian interests. Before we look at the data, let me get into some definitions. Criteria H3, this defines the maximum daily Lake St. Louis level as a function of Lake Ontario level. Operationally, this is the F-limit in Plan 2014, with the exception that the F-limit makes no adjustment for water supplies higher than the past, whereas Criteria H3 specifically requires an adjustment of flow rates based on current parameters. Criteria H4 defines the maximum monthly average Lake Ontario level over the course of the calendar year. There is no direct operational utilization of this criteria in Plan 2014. Let me repeat. H4 is a monthly average. Criteria H3, or the F-limit, is a daily maximum. And then third, criteria H14, this defines the trigger levels at which the works, meaning the dam, are to be operated to give maximum possible relief to riparian interests upstream and downstream. I've covered this in other presentations before. Okay, getting into some of the data. On the left-hand side here, I plot the Lower St. Lawrence River and Montreal, and on the right-hand side, the Upper St. Lawrence River and Lake Ontario. I'm plotting the number of days of non-compliance with the respective criteria relevant to that location. In both 2017 and 2019, the durations of period exceeding criteria H4 and H14, which is Upper St. Lawrence River and Lake Ontario, were far longer than periods exceeding criteria H3 for the Lower St. Lawrence River and Montreal. Operation of Plan 2014 is unbalanced to the benefit of the Lower St. Lawrence River and to the detriment of the Upper St. Lawrence River and Lake Ontario riparians. The duration of Lake Ontario flooding was 3 to 5 times longer than the duration of flooding in Montreal and the Lower St. Lawrence River. Now that we've established the duration discrepancy between flooding in Lower St. Lawrence River and Montreal versus Lake Ontario, let's talk about the severity of flooding. Once again, on the left-hand side, we have the Lower St. Lawrence River in Montreal, and on the right-hand side, we have the Upper St. Lawrence River and Lake Ontario. And here I'm plotting the elevation above Plan 2014 criteria. In both 2017 and 2019, the levels above criterion H14, once again that's the Upper St. Lawrence River and Lake Ontario, were far higher than levels exceeding criterion H3 for the Lower St. Lawrence River and Montreal. Operation of Plan 2014 is unbalanced to the benefit of the Lower St. Lawrence River and to the detriment of the Upper St. Lawrence River and Lake Ontario. The severity of Lake Ontario flooding was 2 to 4 times higher than the severity of flooding in Montreal and the Lower St. Lawrence River. To summarize these last two slides, the flooding duration in Lake Ontario was 3 to 5 times longer than the flooding in Montreal and the Lower St. Lawrence River, and the flooding severity was 2 to 4 times higher on Lake Ontario and the Upper St. Lawrence River than it was in the Lower St. Lawrence River and Montreal. This is unbalanced. So how does this imbalance come about? It does not come about from high inflow from Lake Erie and rainfall over the Lake Ontario basin. It comes about from the way that the F-limit is applied. Here I'm plotting actual Lake Ontario outflow in blue from January 1, 2017 to September 30th, 2019. And that's very much in accordance with the rules that we currently have in place or the interpretation of those rules. The orange line is the pre-project flow per Plan 2014 equations that would have occurred at that level on that date, pre-project. So in order for Lake Ontario to get pre-project protection or pre-project conditions, the blue line cannot be below the orange line. When the blue line, as it is right here, is below the orange line, we are intentionally holding water back below pre-project levels on Lake Ontario. Now, there are periods where that's reasonable. Here in winter 2017 to 18, and here in winter 2018 to 2019, we have reductions in flow out of Lake Ontario below pre-project levels to accommodate ice formation. That is a reasonable exception as that benefits everybody. It keeps the equipment safe, and it also provides a way to reduce and avoid ice jams, which are a problem for everybody. So those are reasonable. However, the red areas right here is reduction of Lake Ontario outflow below pre-project levels in 2017 here, and in 2019 right here, per the F-limit. So the F-limit flow is below pre-project levels, which is a direct injury to Lake Ontario riparians solely for the benefit of the Lower St. Lawrence River and Montreal. In both 2017 and 2019, Lake Ontario flows were reduced below pre-project levels here and here to accommodate the F-limit. This outflow reduction is done for the sole benefit of the Lower St. Lawrence River and directly injures the Upper St. Lawrence River and Lake Ontario by raising the level above pre-project equivalent. This excessive reduction in outflow appears to invoke Article 8 of the 1909 Boundary Waters Treaty, requiring compensation of injury to Lake Ontario and Upper. Is this injury significant? Is it meaningful? This plots in blue right here from, again, January 1, 2017 through September 30th, 2019 in blue, plots the actual observed and recorded and reported level of Lake Ontario every day. The orange line plots what would have happened on Lake Ontario had the F-limit been limited and capped at no less flow than pre-project. In 2017, that would have reduced the lake level from 248.95 feet to 248.68 feet. A 0.27 foot or 3.25 inch Lake Ontario reduction. In 2019, that very same change, capping the F-limit flow reduction at pre-project levels, would have kept the lake from 249.08 down to 248.59, which is a 0.49 foot or 6 inch level reduction on Lake Ontario. Therefore, the injury to Lake Ontario and the upper St. Lawrence River caused by the unlimited reduction of Lake Ontario outflow is significant. Continuing with this, the Plant 2014 F limits, or rather L limits, can be improved. In addition to a pre-project cap on the F limit, a revision of the L limits to permanently incorporate the 200 cubic meter per second increase applied in the summer of 2017 and virtually the entire second half of 2019 would have kept 2019 levels at 248.45 feet, right here, or 0.63 feet, 7.5 inches below observed. That is a significant impact. The combination of operational lessons learned in 2017 and 2019, plus appropriate application of the F-limit, respects the Boundary Waters Treaty and provides better balance and benefit distribution without changing the overall intent of Plan 2014. If you look at the plot, the orange line from January 1, 2017 through September 30, 2019, capping the F-limit at pre-project flow and increasing L limits by 200 cubic meters per second does not change the overall performance of Plan 2014, but keeps Lake Ontario levels at a reasonable level, at a reasonable and justifiable level. In summary, the current application of the F-limit allows Lake Ontario outflow reductions below pre-project levels, and pre-project means the flow rate that would have occurred through Lake Ontario, through the St. Lawrence River, out of Lake Ontario, before the seaway was constructed. This is an apparent violation of the Boundary Waters Treaty if compensation is not provided. As a result, Lake Ontario levels are raised above pre-project equivalent. If the F-limit is modified to permit no less than pre-project flow, Lake Ontario will no longer receive additional benefits from the dam. However, the lower St. Lawrence River also receives no less protection than would have occurred pre-project. That is a condition in Plan 2014 that I have no issue with. But most importantly, Lake Ontario is no longer required to unreasonably accept damage caused by the current application of the F-limit due to the spring flood on the Ottawa River. Note that the Ottawa River is not a boundary water, is entirely within Canada, and does not fall under IJC jurisdiction. Let me summarize the entire presentation in simpler terms. The F-limit allows a reduction of Lake Ontario outflow below reasonable levels, below levels that would have occurred prior to the construction of the seaway and the dam. We all benefit from the dam. Lake Ontario benefits, the lower St. Lawrence River and Montreal benefit, navigation benefits, hydropower benefits. I have no issue with that. However, the F-limit, as it is written and as it is applied, provides an excessive benefit to the lower St. Lawrence River and Montreal to the direct detriment of Lake Ontario. That is an imbalance in the way the plan is written, and as I've shown during the presentation, leads to 3 to 5 times longer flooding on Lake Ontario than the lower St. Lawrence River, and 2 to 4 times higher flooding on Lake Ontario and the upper St. Lawrence River than the lower St. Lawrence River in Montreal. I agree that under high water supply conditions, no plan will avoid all flooding. However, the way the plan is written right now, and the way that the effluent is applied, unreasonably raises Lake Ontario level to the benefit of the lower St. Lawrence River. And once that happens, by not following criteria H14 and giving all possible relief to riparians upstream and downstream, the flooding is extended unnecessarily. I hope this was useful. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.